This is Story Recapped. Today, I'm going to explain a mystery, sci-fi, and thriller film called Cargo. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. An advertisement in space invites people to relocate to Rhea, a distant planet that's been terraformed to inhabit humans after the Earth's ecological collapse. Near Earth is an overcrowded space station for survivors who cannot afford to travel to Rhea. Dr. Laura Portman hopes to relocate to Rhea, so she signs up for an 8-year expedition on a cargo ship. She records a video message for her sister, whom she wishes to reunite with in Rhea. Upon entering the cargo ship, Cassandra, she's welcomed by First Officer Lindbergh. Inside, she meets the rest of the crew, Captain LaCroix, Yoshida, Vespucci, and Prokop. LaCroix explains that they'll be upgrading an unmanned ship known as Station 42 into a transport hub. The Cassandra will be on autopilot for the journey. However, due to recent attacks, the government has mandated that all ships must have a sky marshal. Lindbergh introduces Lieutenant Decker, the sky marshal assigned to their ship. Decker plays a video to orient the crew regarding the mandate. The video includes a warning that Klaus Bruckner, the leader of the terrorist group Maschenströmer, is still on the run. The Maschenströmer are protesting against allowing technology to run humanity. The crew prepares for cryogenic sleep after Cassandra exits the space station. The crew will take shifts to maintain the ship, spanning 8.5 months per ship. LaCroix takes the first shift and tells the crew to wake up Decker if they encounter a problem. 3 years and 8 months after their departure, Laura watches a video message from her sister, Ariane, who's worried about her since there have been reports that the Maschenströmer's attacks have become more frequent. Laura spends her shift exercising, monitoring the ship's performance, and reading. She then records a reply for Ariane, noting how cold and lonely it is on the cargo ship. Despite this, Laura assures her sister that she's well. One night, Laura gets an eerie feeling that she's being watched. She cautiously walks around the ship, following a sound that's echoing in the cargo bay. She checks the door to the cargo bay when something suddenly bangs on the door. Laura panics and hurries back up, but finds Decker already awake. Decker explains that he was automatically awoken after she opened the airlock to the cargo bay. Laura defends that something is inside and insists that their rules state to wake the ship captain when something unexpected happens. After LaCroix is woken up, the three investigate the cargo bay. Inside, they find airlock suits thrown on the floor, but LaCroix notes that it could have been caused by an overload in air pressure. They check the computer logs, detecting several illegal accesses during Laura's shift. The three then split up to search the cargo bay for suspicious signs. Laura checks the containment units to make sure they're all locked. Soon, she reaches a floor with open platforms, creating large empty spaces that she could fall in. She carefully makes her way across when LaCroix suddenly falls from above. Laura calls Decker before climbing down to check on LaCroix. By the time they reach him, he's unconscious. Suddenly, the alarms blare, indicating that the gates are closing. Decker and Laura carry LaCroix, barely making it out before the gate closes. Outside, Laura attempts to resuscitate LaCroix, but to no avail. Due to the circumstances, they wake up the rest of the crew. Lindbergh takes command and orders Prokop and Vespucci to find the cargo gate. She then orders Yoshida to investigate the logs for any suspicious activities while Laura does an autopsy on LaCroix. Laura scans LaCroix's body, spotting multiple rib fractures and craniocerebral injury. Laura also finds an artificial implant on LaCroix's eye. She takes it out and discovers that the eye has recorded LaCroix's last moments. She and Decker view the recording and discover that LaCroix found a containment unit that was unlocked moments before he fell. Laura notes that the unit has a biohazard sticker on the inside. Given that they were supposed to be transporting construction materials only, she wonders what the biohazard material was. At the cargo bay, Prokop and Vespucci report that the gate's gears are broken. Decker and Laura head inside to investigate the containment unit that LaCroix found and use LaCroix's badge to open it. Inside, they find multiple cryogenic tanks full of humans. Prokop and Vespucci are called in to help transport one of the tanks. As they do, Vespucci nearly falls off when one of the bars on the ladder breaks. Suddenly, the containment units start moving. They hurry out of the way, but Laura gets separated as she holds onto a ladder of a moving unit. She desperately climbs, and Decker helps her up. The team transports the cryogenic tank into the medical bay to investigate. Lindbergh argues that whatever they're transporting isn't for them to meddle with, but the crew suspects that someone murdered LaCroix and set the units in motion when they were investigating. Decker suspects that Lindbergh knew about the tanks, but she brushes off the allegation and orders them to return the tank. However, Laura insists that as the ship's doctor, she must examine every human on board the ship, including the young girl inside the tank. Decker adds that it's also his duty to investigate anything suspicious, and he believes that the tanks are linked to LaCroix's death. Laura proceeds to scan the cryogenic tank, detecting minor brain activity. Laura tells Decker that the tank is blocking her scanner, and she can't open the security lock. Later, Lindbergh commands Yoshida to look up anything suspicious about Decker. Decker helps Laura override the security encryption on the tank to open it. As they wait for the system to work, Laura asks him what he knows about Station 42. Decker notes that Station 42 is supposed to be repurposed to be a transport hub for ships heading to Proxima. He then asks why she signed up for the job, and Laura admits that she's in it for the money so she can go to Rhea. Suddenly, Decker kisses Laura, but she doesn't react. At the cargo bay, Prokop and Vespucci hear something moving inside. Vespucci tells his crewmate to hurry in fixing the gate so they can get out of there. Finally, Decker and Laura open the tank. Laura scans the child inside and discovers that an inorganic tissue has grown into the girl's nervous system. They identify it as a virtual reality connector that's perfectly installed into her brain. Decker suggests connecting the child to an external system to obtain further information, but Laura advises against it as it could result in neural damage, risking the child's life. Decker agrees, though he commands Laura to keep their discovery between them. Laura records a video message where she recounts finding the girl in the cargo bay. Because of this, she's on edge about their mission. Meanwhile, Yoshida looks into Decker's file, but finds it classified. Soon, Ariane responds to Laura's message, who's just as confused about a girl in the cargo bay. Ariane offers Laura a room in their home in Rhea, so she doesn't have to keep working on cargo ships anymore. However, Laura is suspicious that her sister was able to respond to her message so quickly. She asks Decker about the neural access, suspicious how he ordered her to keep the child's connector a secret. When he doesn't answer, Laura questions who he really is, but Decker distracts her with a kiss. The kiss soon develops into a passionate moment between them. Later, Lindbergh calls the crew to the bridge. Yoshida has discovered that the log files for the cryotanks reveal that Decker has woken up several times during their expedition. Decker defends that it's his duty to check the ship periodically. Lindbergh then questions where he was when LaCroix fell, but he claims that he was on another sector of the cargo bay at the time. Unsatisfied, Lindbergh arrests Decker for murder. Decker sets his gun down, but swiftly steals Lindbergh's, holding her at gunpoint. Yoshida tackles him from behind, allowing Vespucci to apprehend him. Lindbergh orders Laura to return the child's cryotank to the containment unit, but Laura stresses that the child's vitals are unstable, making it dangerous to transport her. Still, Lindbergh commands her to do so. Before Decker is put into his cryogenic tank, Laura tends to his wound to prevent the blood from contaminating the cryo fluid. When they're alone, Decker attempts small talk, but Laura ignores him. Before she leaves, Decker reveals that they're heading to Rhea. She doesn't believe this, so she allows Vespucci and Prokop to put him to sleep. Still, Laura asks Yoshida to check if they're really on the path to Station 42. Yoshida discovers that their coordinates are inaccessible, but she's sure that they're not heading to Station 42. Yoshida stresses that there's no way to change their coordinates after departure, so it couldn't have been manipulated. Laura asks how long messages usually reach Rhea from where they are, and Yoshida claims that it takes years, even though Ariane replied to her in 20 minutes. Hearing this, Yoshida suspects that Lindbergh is lying to them, since she'd know the coordinates. Suddenly, Vespucci walks in on them and invites them to celebrate since they finally fixed the gate. While Laura, Vespucci, and Prokop are drinking in the lobby, Yoshida tries to hack into the system near the cargo bay. Suddenly, the power in the lobby fluctuates. Worried, Laura checks in on Yoshida, but finds the hallway to the cargo bay empty. She spots a wall that's partially open, and when she looks inside, she discovers Yoshida's dead body. They later discover that Decker has woken up, so they suspect that he killed Yoshida and someone else on the ship has been helping him. Lindbergh orders the rest to search the ship. Laura and Vespucci check the lower deck, where they find a duct open. Thinking that Decker went inside, Vespucci plans to corner him. Laura enters the vent while Vespucci climbs from the other side. She drops into a chamber that's covered in litter. While sifting through the garbage, a man attacks her from behind. Laura instinctively fires, shooting the man in the stomach. The man warns her about something blowing up before he passes away. Laura finds the man's belongings and realizes that he's Klaus Bruckner. In his items, she also finds a photo of Decker. Laura watches a video from Bruckner's tablet, where he and Decker show a greenhouse built to avoid acid rain. Being able to grow crops in the greenhouse proves that there's still a chance to survive on Earth, a belief that the Maschenströmer fight for. Suddenly, Vespucci arrives and reports that they've captured Decker. Upstairs, Decker is beaten and interrogated. He looks to Laura for help, but she freezes in confusion. Decker finally reveals that the planet Rhea is not real, but only a simulation. The simulation uses the brains of the people in the cryogenic tank as neural units. He argues that the government is preventing the news that Earth is still livable to maintain control over the population. Decker insists that Bruckner killed LaCroix, but he doesn't confess to harming Yoshida, making Laura suspect Lindbergh. After Decker is taken away, Laura reports that the child is stable, so Lindbergh orders her to return the tank into the containment unit. Lindbergh adds that they can go back to cryo-sleep after, as she'll be taking over the rest of Laura's shift. Laura walks away, but senses Lindbergh's eyes watching her. She draws her gun, but Lindbergh aims at her faster. Meanwhile, Prokop and Vespucci reveal to Decker that they know the truth about Rhea. At the lobby, Lindbergh confesses that the simulation is real, but it was only meant to be temporary. When they attempted to change Rhea's ecosystem, they were met with consequences that caused the settlement to fail. She insists that the government is still searching for a planet to terraform and that they will not make the same mistakes as they did on Rhea. They kept the ruse that Rhea is habitable to keep people's hopes up. Lindbergh claims that the simulation is perfect since she'd been there. She intends to have Laura and Decker killed and blamed for LaCroix's death. Hearing the truth, Vespucci and Prokop hold Lindbergh at gunpoint. They put Lindbergh under cryo-sleep before discussing their options. Prokop doesn't want to be put in a simulation, but Vespucci thinks it's a better life. Laura tends to the sleeping child in the medical bay, while Decker apologizes for not telling the truth. He asks for help to finish their mission, and she asks him to help her free her sister in return. The team plots to continue the expedition, but delay the unloading procedure. This will allow Decker and Laura to enter the station and log into the simulation. Laura will use Rhea to send a message to Earth, while Decker searches for her sister's tank. Afterward, they will sabotage the antenna to prevent Rhea from sending more signals while people in the tanks are kept alive. As they wait for their arrival, Decker assures Laura that Earth is habitable again, since nature has overtaken the lands and cities. However, he admits that he can't assure they'll find Ariane, and she'll be well if they do, since she's been in the simulation for too long. Still, Laura hopes to take her sister back to Earth. Finally, Cassandra docks into the station. As Laura and Decker prepare, they find that the child is awake. Laura takes the girl to her room to keep her warm. Meanwhile, Vespucci plans to wake two people in the cryotanks so he and Prokop can enter the simulation. However, they can't open the unit. Vespucci steals the captain's badge from Lindbergh's cryotank, contaminating the fluid. He then orders Prokop to override the timer to unload the tanks into Rhea in 10 minutes so they can enter before Decker and Laura disconnect the system. Vespucci finally opens the containment unit and takes the badge with him inside. As Laura prepares to exit, her communication line with Decker becomes unstable. Decker loads explosives on the station's antenna, but struggles to find Ariane's tank. Laura finally heads into space, but her thruster sputters out, making her unable to steer herself. Meanwhile, Decker locates Ariane's tank. Soon, Decker spots Laura, so she latches onto him. At the same time, Lindbergh wakes up due to the contaminated fluid. Decker tells Laura that he found Ariane, but it's impossible to pull her out of the simulation. Still, Laura insists on seeing her sister. She tells him to connect her to her sister's module and promises to send the message from there. Just as Decker connects Laura to the simulation, they see the Cassandra unloading the cargo. Because of this, they only have 7 minutes to disconnect Laura from the simulation. Laura soon enters the simulation, where she's met with clear skies and a beautiful forest. Laura soaks up nature's beauty before remembering her mission. While she's unconscious, Decker loads his thruster's fuel cell into hers. Laura reaches Ariane's house and finds her video camera. Finally, she reunites with her sister and is stunned at how real Ariane feels. Ariane calls her children to meet their aunt, but Laura cries, knowing that none of it is real. She tells her sister she loves her before running off. Conflicted between the truth and the idea of living in paradise with her family, Laura weeps. Finally, she uses Ariane's video camera to record a message, revealing that Rhea is only a simulation. She promises the people that Earth is habitable again. Laura takes one last look at the clear skies before Decker disconnects her from the simulation. Decker tells her to return to Cassandra on her own. She refuses to leave without him, but Decker insists that they can't travel with only one fuel cell. He tells her that she must return with the child, who is their only proof that Rhea is not real. Suddenly, Cassandra's thrusters power on, and the shockwaves throw them off. Laura cries as Decker lets go, telling her that he loves her before floating away into space. Laura navigates back to Cassandra. After some time, Rhea's antenna finally explodes. Inside Cassandra, the ship is on red alert. The child is missing, so Laura hurries to find her. Lindbergh appears, and Laura tackles her. Lindbergh gets the upper hand and grabs an axe, accidentally damaging a tank. Laura uses the mist to block Lindbergh's view, then pins her on the floor. Lindbergh closes the airlock gate to trap Laura, but Laura pulls her down and escapes instead. The airlock exit opens, forcing Lindbergh into space. Soon, Laura finds the child eating in the lobby. The two happily live in Cassandra as it makes its way back to the space station. Eventually, Laura's message reaches the space station, giving people hope for life on Earth.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.